Hey friends, Joshua here. As many of you know, I'm converting to Judaism in the coming months, and as part of that conversion, my rabbi wants me to start making a weekly video documenting my progress, some of my thoughts, questions, concerns, things like that. So as part of my first video, he recommended that I just talk about where I've came from and where I plan on going, things like that. So as a little part of my history, I was raised in an Assembly of God church, Pentecostal, if you will, and followed that system for 18 years of my life until I went to college, and then I started questioning my beliefs and why do I believe this? Did I just believe this because my pastor told me this? Because my parents taught me this? Because this was drilled into my head? Or do I really believe it because I believe it? And in some of my religion classes, I even expressed that. I said, well, if I'm going to believe a system, I want to know why I believe it. It was probably the February or March of my freshman year, which was 2008, that my buddy invited me to what he called a Messianic congregation. And so I went with no expectations, really. He didn't explain too much, just kind of invited me, so I went. And it was on a Saturday, which was strange to me, having gone to church for Sunday all my life. So I went and thought it was kind of neat. There was a lot of things that were different. It was a unique experience. Didn't think much about it. Went the next week too. And so I didn't go for a month after that. I kind of stayed home on those Saturdays and I would study kind of what they believed and references to their belief system and why they believed what they believed and where it came from, more or less. And so I found it to be not necessarily completely true at that point, but interesting enough that I decided I wanted to go back. So I went back and I continued going, and I would ask them questions when I was there. When we would eat the meal at the end, the oneg, and they would answer them to the best of their ability, and everything started to make sense to me. So little by little, I started implementing those little bits of Torah observance into my life. I think my very first pair of tzitzit was made out of yarn, and I attached them to my belt loops. It was very elementary at best, but I didn't know any better, and I was trying my best to observe Torah. And I would wear a little 2-inch round kippah that was velvet or something like that. And like I said, I started to put little bits of Torah into my life little by little. So then eventually I came back home and found out there was a conservative shul here, so I started going there little by little. Kept my same belief system. Still believe Jesus was the Messiah, and I tried to observe Torah as best as I could. And then probably about a year ago, I started questioning Paul, I guess. People brought some things up that really made me question who he was. Was he actually an observant Jew? Did he have all the conversion story stuff right? Little by little, I started questioning him. Eventually decided he wasn't necessary because he wasn't the Messiah. He was supposedly a missionary for him and all this stuff. So I was just like, yeah, we'll just stick with Jesus and the Torah. That's fair enough. And a little bit after that, I started studying Jesus himself. I started studying, the Messianic prophecies, the ones that were supposedly about him, the ones that he supposedly fulfilled, what the expectation has always been for a Messiah. And I studied both sides of the fence. I didn't just study one. And eventually it just kind of led me to believe that he really wasn't. He may very well have been a good Torah teacher. He may have been a good guy. But in my mind, he was not the Messiah. And when people ask me about that today, that's usually the big question is, oh, so you don't believe in Jesus? I usually don't dwell on that too much because that takes away from the entire fact and beauty of what Judaism and Torah has to offer. So I just kind of skip past that, and I'm like, yeah, but, and then I'll bring about what Judaism has to offer. Its righteous moral code, the beauty of community, and things like that. So yeah, now I've approached Rabbi Ludeman, and I've asked him for conversion, and he has agreed. And I'm going to be making these weekly videos now. So with Hashem's help, I will bring you back a video next week. Thank you all, and Shabbat Shalom.